My story starts in late July. It was July 21st, I think. It was the first day of our holiday, a hot July day. I stood in the sun and looked at the sea. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. I was on a boat at Portsmouth with my mother, father, and my sister Louise. Seabirds flew near our big boat and the small boats around us on the sea. I started to look at the people with us on the boat. They were all watching the seabirds, talking, and laughing. Everyone seemed happy on the first day of their holiday. And then suddenly, there he was, a tall, quiet boy in a blue and white shirt. He was really good-looking. I'll always remember the first time I saw him. Wow! He's lovely. He didn't see me then. He was with some friends. One of the boys looked like his brother. They had the same blue eyes, the same mouth and nose, and almost the same hair. His brother and one of his friends were trying to catch the seabirds, and he smiled at them. Then they came and stood near us, talking about the small boats on the sea. I watched him the whole time over Louise's head. His brother and friends were making a lot of noise, but he was quiet and didn't talk much. Then, suddenly, he looked at me, and his eyes rested on me quietly. He smiled with his lovely, shy blue eyes. At that moment, everything around me, the people on the boat, the sun, the sea, the birds, the noise of his friends, time itself, seemed to stop. It was just him and me. Only the two of us. Slowly, the boat started to move away across the water towards Spain. It takes a day and a night to travel by boat from Portsmouth to Santander, in Spain. A whole day and night together on the same boat. Maybe I could talk to him before we arrived. Maybe I'd see him again this evening. It was a big, new boat with cafes, shops, a cinema, and a disco. That evening, Louise and I went to the disco together. We had a Coke, listened to the music, and watched the dancers. But he wasn't there. Then, suddenly, a tall boy in a black and white shirt walked in. It was him. He was with a friend. They stopped and slowly looked at everyone in the disco. He's looking for me. He wants to see me. Then he saw me, and he smiled a big, friendly smile. I wanted to stand up and sing, to dance with him. He came over to our table and asked me to dance. Suddenly, he wasn't shy with me anymore. We danced together for a long time. But then I looked up, and there was another tall boy at the door of the disco. He was wearing a blue and white shirt, with the same eyes, mouth, and almost the same hair. But the boy near the door had that nice, quiet, shy face. Not a big, open, friendly smile. Suddenly, I knew. I was dancing with his brother, not him. I was with the wrong brother. The boy near the door stood there for a moment, watching me and his brother on the dance floor with sad eyes. I wanted to run to him, to hold his sad face and say sorry. He looked at me once more and then quickly left. I stopped dancing, walked back to my table, and sat down. His brother started dancing with Louise. I didn't sleep that night. I thought about him all the time, listening to the sounds of the boat and the sea. In the morning, I went to the cafe at 8 o'clock with my sister and waited for him for a long time. I wanted to say sorry. I had 4 cups of coffee, even though I don't really like coffee. But he didn't come. Where was he? At 11 o'clock, we arrived in Santander. I wanted to stop the boat, stop the holiday, and go back to England. I just wanted to see him again, to talk to him, to ask his name. But he wasn't there. Mark's story. I started learning Spanish at school in September, and I like it. We've got a good teacher, Old Webb. My mother always says, he isn't old, you know, but we still call him Old Webb. He always takes a group of us from school to Spain for 2 weeks every July. We were at Portsmouth with Old Webb and Mrs. Webb. She's from Argentina, and all the boys think she's good-looking. There were 6 of us, Harry Potts and his sister Sonia, Nick Atkins, a good friend, Sue Bellamy, she's really smart, my brother Dave and me. Dave and I are both 14, and we get along well. Most of the time. There were hundreds of people on the boat. It was a hot, sunny day. People were watching the sea and the small boats. I liked being in the sun, thinking about the 2 weeks of holiday in Spain. Old Webb started one of his stories about Argentina, but I didn't listen. I started looking around at the people on the boat. And then I saw her, a really good-looking girl with nice brown eyes and black hair. Wow, she's nice. And she's looking at me. I'm shy and not very good with girls, so I didn't talk to her. But I watched her with her family. She smiled at me for a moment before they walked away. My brother Dave saw her too and laughed at my red face. Hey! She's smiling at you. And you're all red in the face. You're in love. Hey, man. You're in love. Dave teased. I wanted to see her again, maybe at lunch in the cafe or in the cinema that afternoon, but she wasn't there. I don't even remember the film because all I could think about was her. That evening, we had a drink with Old Webb and Mrs. Webb, who we all secretly called Lovely Lucrezia. Afterward, Dave and Harry went to the disco to meet some girls. I don't like dancing much, but I decided to go later because I wanted to see her again. I hoped she'd be there. When I arrived, it was dark inside the disco. I stood near the door, scanning the room, and then I saw her, on the dance floor. But she was with Dave. She was smiling at him too, with the same lovely smile she had given me. I couldn't stand to watch, so I left. I walked outside to look at the sea, needing time to think. Oh no! She's with Dave. I was up early the next morning, just before 6 o'clock. I went outside to watch the sunrise over the sea. It was quiet and peaceful, with only an old man and some seabirds nearby. He smiled at me, but we didn't talk. I liked being alone in the quiet. I went to the cafe afterward, hoping to see her there. I wanted her to walk in, come over to my table, sit down, and talk to me. I wanted to ask her name. But she never came. I waited and waited, but she didn't show up. At 8 o'clock, I went to find Nick and Dave. Dave was quiet that morning, and he was being unusually nice to me. We arrived in Santander at 11, but I still hadn't seen her again. She was gone. The town's story. Cumulus is a small town about 50 kilometers from Santander, near the sea. It has quiet streets with old buildings and a small town square. There are little shops and cafes with tables and chairs under the trees. Many people from Madrid come to Cumulus for their holidays, and families from England, France, and other European countries often stay there as well. In the evenings, especially during June, July, and August, people like to walk through the streets of Cumulus. They stop in the square to talk with each other while their children play nearby. Some people sit at the cafe tables, watching the scene, reading their newspapers, or chatting over drinks. On the evening after the boat arrived in Santander, it was disco night in Cumulus. The square was full of people. Spanish families from Cumulus and Madrid, along with families from England, France, Germany, and Holland. Some of the English families from the boat were also there, staying in Cumulus for a night or two. Donna was sitting with her family at a table under some trees. She watched the dancers in the square, but she wasn't really seeing them. The music played, but she didn't hear it. She didn't want to be there. All she wanted was to see the lovely, shy boy from the boat again, to dance with him, maybe. I just want to see him again. Maybe dance with him. Meanwhile, Mr. and Mrs. Webb were having a great time. They had gone to a little restaurant near the beach to enjoy some good fish, and then they were heading to the disco in the square. "Let's eat by the beach, then we can head to the disco in Cumulus," suggested Mr. Webb. "Yeah, sounds good." Everyone agreed. Mark, however, didn't want to go. He wasn't in the mood to eat, dance, or talk. He just wanted to sit quietly and think about the girl from the boat. Where was she now? But Dave, Harry, Nick, and Sue all convinced him to go. Later that evening, Mark walked into the square with his friends. They found a table at one of the cafes and sat down. Mark scanned the crowd, looking slowly at the people sitting nearby. At the same time, Donna sat at her table, still feeling sad, watching the dancers without really seeing them. And then, their eyes met across the square. Time seemed to stop. He was there. She was there. Mark smiled at her with his kind blue eyes, and Donna smiled back with her dark brown eyes. Suddenly, Mark wasn't shy anymore. He stood up and began to walk toward her. Donna stood too, and they met in the middle of the square. Their hands touched, and all she wanted to do now was dance. With him, only him. Their friends watched and smiled, knowing what was happening. Even Dave smiled happily, watching his brother and Donna. You see, Dave had known the whole story all along. He had planned everything for his shy brother. He knew Mark would need a little push to stop being shy with girls and to take a chance. As Donna and Mark danced together, Dave smiled, thinking, "My plan worked. Mark is always so shy with girls, and I wanted him to get together with her. That's why I danced with her first, to give him the push he needed." And so, Donna and Mark danced together, finally, under the stars in the square of Cumulus, surrounded by friends and strangers alike. They were together at last, and it was just the beginning. And that's how Donna met Mark, the boy she thought she might never see again. Sometimes, fate works in mysterious ways. If you liked this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more English learning stories. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for notifications about our new videos. And comment below if you'd like more stories like this one. Thanks for watching.